صلوا على محمد وآل محمد. اللهم صل على اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. اللهم إني أسألك وأتوجه إليك بنبيك نبي الرحمة محمد صلى الله عليه وآله. يا أبا القاسم يا رسول الله، يا إمام الرحمة، يا سيدنا ومولانا، إنا توجهنا واستشفعنا وتوسلنا بك إلى الله وقدمناك بين يدي حاجاتنا. يا وجيها عند الله اشفع لنا عند الله. يا أبا الحسن يا أمير المؤمنين، يا علي بن أبي طالب، يا حجة الله على خلقه، يا سيدنا ومولانا، إنا توجهنا واستشفعنا وتوسلنا بك إلى الله وقدمناك بين يدي حاجاتنا. يا وجيها عند الله اشفع لنا عند الله. يا فاطمة الزهراء يا بنت محمد، يا قرة عين الرسول، يا سيدتنا ومولاتنا، إنا توجهنا واستشفعنا وتوسلنا بك إلى الله وقدمناك بين يدي حاجاتنا. يا وجيهة عند الله اشفعي لنا عند الله. يا أبا محمد يا حسن بن علي أيها المجتبى يا ابن رسول الله، يا حجة الله على خلقه، يا سيدنا ومولانا، إنا توجهنا واستشفعنا وتوسلنا بك إلى الله وقدمناك بين يدي حاجاتنا. يا وجيها عند الله اشفع لنا عند الله. يا أبا عبد الله يا حسين بن علي أيها الشهيد يا ابن رسول الله، يا حجة الله على خلقه، يا سيدنا ومولانا، إنا توجهنا واستشفعنا وتوسلنا بك إلى الله وقدمناك بين يدي حاجاتنا. يا وجيها عند الله اشفع لنا عند الله. يا أبا الحسن يا علي بن الحسين يا زين العابدين يا ابن رسول الله، يا حجة الله على خلقه، يا سيدنا ومولانا، إنا توجهنا واستشفعنا وتوسلنا بك إلى الله وقدمناك بين يدي حاجاتنا. يا وجيها عند الله اشفع لنا عند الله. يا أبا جعفر يا محمد بن علي أيها الباكر يا ابن رسول الله يا حجة الله على خلقه يا سيدنا ومولانا إنا توجهنا واستشفعنا وتوسلنا بك إلى الله وقدمناك بين يدي حاجاتنا يا وجيها عند الله اشفع لنا عند الله يا أبا عبد الله يا جعفر بن محمد أيها الصادق يا ابن رسول الله يا حجة الله على خلقه يا سيدنا ومولانا إنا توجهنا واستشفعنا وتوسلنا بك إلى الله وقدمناك بين يدي حاجاتنا يا وجيها عند الله اشفع لنا عند الله يا أبا الحسن يا موسى بن جعفر أيها القاضم يا ابن رسول الله يا حجة الله على خلقه يا سيدنا ومولانا إنا توجهنا واستشفعنا وتوسلنا بك إلى الله وقدمناك بين يدي حاجاتنا يا وجيها عند الله اشفع لنا عند الله يا أبا الحسن يا علي بن موسى أيها الرضا يا ابن رسول الله يا حجة الله على خلقه يا سيدنا ومولانا إنا توجهنا واستشفعنا وتوسلنا بك إلى الله وقدمناك بين يدي حاجاتنا يا وجيها عند الله اشفع لنا عند الله يا أبا جعفر يا محمد بن علي أيها التقي الجواد يا ابن رسول الله يا حجة الله على خلقه يا سيدنا ومولانا إنا توجهنا واستشفعنا وتوسلنا بك إلى الله وقدمناك بين يدي حاجاتنا يا وجيها عند الله اشفع لنا عند الله يا أبا الحسن يا علي بن محمد أيها الحاد النكي يا ابن رسول الله يا حجة الله على خلقه يا سيدنا ومولانا إنا توجهنا واستشفعنا وتوسلنا بك إلى الله وقدمناك بين يدي حاجاتنا يا وجيها عند الله اشفع لنا عند الله يا أبا محمد يا حسن بن علي أيها الزكي العسكري يا ابن رسول الله يا حجة الله على خلقه يا سيدنا ومولانا إنا توجهنا واستشفعنا وتوسلنا بك إلى الله وقدمناك بين يدي حاجاتنا يا وجيها لا عند الله يا وصي الحسن والخلف الهجة أيها القائم المنتظر المهدي يا ابن رسول الله يا حجة الله على خلقه يا سيدنا ومولانا إنا توجهنا واستشفعنا وتوسلنا بك إلى الله وقدمناك بين يدي حاجاتنا يا وجيها عند الله اشفع لنا عند الله. Ask for your hajat. يا سادتي وموالي إني توجهت بكم أئمتي وأدتي ليوم فقري وحاجتي إلى الله وتوسلت بكم إلى الله واستشفعت بكم إلى الله فاشفعوا لي عند الله واستنقذوني من ذنوبي عند الله فإنكم وسيلتي إلى الله وبحبكم وبقربكم أرجو نجاة من الله فكونوا عند الله رجائي يا سادتي يا أولياء الله صلى الله عليهم أجمعين ولعن الله أعداء الله ظالميهم من الأولين والآخرين آمين رب العالمين. اللهم صل على سورة المباركة الفاتحة.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين خاتم النبيين بالقاسم محمد وأهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين الذين أذهب الله عنهم الرجس وطهرهم تطهيرا. أما بعد فقد قال الله تبارك وتعالى وقوله الحق وهو أصدق القائلين بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم فمن أظلم ممن كذب على الله وكذب بالصدق إذ جاءه أليس في جهنم مثوى للكافرين والذي جاء بالصدق وصدق به أولئك هم المتقون لهم ما يشاءون عند ربهم ذلك جزاء المحسنين. صدق الله العلي العظيم. اللهم صل على Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. Continuing with the tafsir of Surah Al-Zumar, I recited for you ayat number 32, 33 and 34. Ayat number 32 ends with the word kafirin, 33 ends with the word muttaqun, and 34 ends with the word muhsinin. The previous discussion and the ayat that passed us, there was a concept of innaka mayyitun wa innahum mayyitun. That, O Prophet, you are bound to death and everyone else is also headed in the same direction. Death is inevitable and it's going to happen to everyone. And of course, everything will perish except wajhullah, as the ayat of Quran states. With that said, now Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in these ayat, discussion talks and the discussion switches toward those who did this injustice, especially when it comes to our Prophet. That someone who was there to bring this deen, someone who was there to, without any personal gains, without any agenda, as the ayat of Surah Yasin also allude to the fact, when in the time of Hazrat Musa, the man came running, said, why are you denying the Anbiya? The one who does not want anything for himself, he's just there to go ahead and provide this guidance to you, and he's not there for himself. And similar is the discussion that you find in these ayat. So the translation is Faman Azlamu. So he who is a greater wrongdoer than him who attributes a falsehood to Allah. Afaman, or rather Faman Azlamu mimman kadhaba alallahi wa kadhaba bis-sidq. Who is a greater wrongdoer than him who attributes a falsehood to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and denies the truth, especially when the truth has reached. Have you seen people stubborn? When they see everything, the reality is there, they're able to see it, yet because of the ego that gets in the middle, they will go ahead and deny it. Failing to recognize their mistake and their failure, they'll continue to deny this. Is it not the final abode of the faithless in hell? Then Allah asks this question, Alaysa fi jahannama mathwal lil kafirin. That isn't the final abode of kafirin be the Jahannam. Points that we can derive from this ayat. First word is, which is used here, is sidq. Allah uses two words, kazaba wa kazzaba. And then He uses the word sidq over here, or bis-sidqi. Kazaba and kazzaba, of course, both are in the same meaning, which is to deny. किज़्ब हम लोग उर्दू में झूठ को कहते हैं, denier or denial or किज़्ब, lying, they're all same meaning. But here, kazaba wa kazzaba, both of course derive from the same root. One is from bab taf'il, which means gradually someone continues to deny this. Even when someone initially fails to understand it. You and I are the same way. Sometimes we fail to understand certain things right away. Some of us are sharp, they understand it right away. Some of us have hard time believing it. No, I'm not going to trust this. I'm not going to trust them until I've seen it, right? And then gradually you will go ahead and believe in something. That's the word kadhaba is being used. So the word sidq in this verse is a reference to the revelation that was sent upon our Prophet in the form of Quran for mankind. So when Allah used the word sidq over here does not mean righteousness as a general. The word sidq over here refers to one of the names in this ayat specifically for the Quran and the wahi that came upon our Prophet. So when Allah says sidq, it is as if He's talking about Quran over here. Number two, the word mathwa, which is from the word thiwa, which means place of permanent residence. That's why mathwan lil kafirin. This will be the abode for the kuffar. That means this will be their permanent abode. They're not there for temporary period, rather they're going to be there forever. Some of the messages that we can derive from this ayat is oppression against. This is probably the main reason why this, you can derive from this ayat. It says the oppression against the thought and the culture of society is the worst form of oppression. Without oppression, with sword, wiping someone out, killing someone, destroying someone, that is an oppression, no doubt. People use sword, people use force to go ahead and do things which are of bad nature, as we see that is happening all around us. But the worst type of oppression is not merely that is taken out by the sword and killing people and wiping them off. If that was the case, Israel would have won a long time ago. They've been continuously bombing the Palestinians and suppressing them for the past 75 years. It is the ideology that you wipe off. It is the ideology that you get rid of, the oppression of thought and culture that they cannot get rid of because it's so ingrained into our madhab. And that is the reason someone who believes they have this firm belief in what they act, and of course we need to have iman and amal go together in order for you to have the firm belief. A lot of times you see many of us are weak when it comes to our iman. You always talk about having strong faith, strong iman. Many of us are very strong when it comes to our faith. Nothing can deter, nothing can change us, nothing can make us leave the path of Ahlul Bayt. But there might come around some people who, after hearing objections and after hearing certain things, their iman will start shaking. And then they'll try and leave the path. So, well, this makes more sense to me. This doesn't make any sense to me. So the concept that you need to have firm belief. No. Today there are many folks out there who are trying to give a bad name to our deen and our madhab. People quote them, they're listening to them. Now, if an ordinary man or an ordinary person heard these things, they might change and they start thinking otherwise. So one of the fitnas of our time, not that I like to mention names, but there's this guy, Hassan al-Layari, that people are so fond of listening. Not that people are fond of listening to him, but they like the fact that he attracts them by attacking Ahl Sunnah. He attacks Ahl Sunnah and he does tabarra basically, right? And which Shia doesn't like tabarra, right? So if there's a something that is being said to degrade the Dushmanan Ahl Bayt, we're going to be all signing up for that. We'll listen to it. Anything that goes ahead and bashes those who are Dushmanan Ahl Bayt, sign me up right away. I'll be the first one putting my ears to that. So with that, when he has your attention, what does he do? He then goes ahead and gives you these bits and pieces of our faith by which he is trying to change your perception. And one of the things that he's been constantly attacking is the establishment of Marji'iyyat. So he brings it from various aspects. I don't listen to him, but this is what I've heard from people. Or when random clips here and there make them their way to my feed and my phone, then I hear it, where he's attacking Marji'iyyat openly, speaking ill against these great scholars. Fine, you don't believe in them, don't believe in them. But to go ahead and character assassinate the Maraji, you'll find his videos not from the time that he started speaking in Urdu. Prior to that, he used to have this channel where he would speak in Farsi. And he would go ahead and attack Marji'iyyat from that time. You'll find clips, you'll just search his name with any of the marja. Al-Layari, type in front of him, Sistani. Al-Layari, type in front of him, Makarim Shirazi. Al-Layari, type in front of him, Ayatollah Bahjat. Al-Layari, type in front of him, Ayatollah Khamenei. Al-Layari, type in front of him, name of any of the marja. There isn't a marja that he hasn't bashed. Okay, you might have political differences. You might even have ideological differences. Many of the scholars of the past and now, they disagreed with each other. Ayatollah Khui's views, many of them, Ayatollah Sistani does not agree with them. Does he go ahead and bash them? He says, I simply disagree with my teacher. And this is a better research that I'm producing and putting forward. That's the ilmi argument. But to go ahead and attack someone and character assassinate that this person, na'udhu billah, has done this and this, all that stuff. That's where you draw a line. So of course, this is the fitna of our time that we are dealing with. Now he's very popular, people listen to, primarily because he gives you something which attracts us. And that is bash our, Dushmanan Ahl Bayt. And he'll bash that. He might even do a good job at it, I don't know. But then in the middle of all that, he's going to go ahead and plant a seed of where it'll go ahead and make you think that, okay, all these things that he said was right. And then in the middle, he also says something which makes me question. So I'm going to go ahead and take it. Why? Because I took everything else that he said. I'm going to take this piece from him as well. And then you'll start building upon it. So, the question of khums that he talks about, there are flaws in it, in explanation of it. There may not be any good explanation about the concept and the collection of khums. But can you deny khums altogether? وَاعْلَمُوا أَنَّمَا غَنِمْتُم مِّن شَيْءٍ فَأَنَّ لِلَّهِ خُمُسَهُ. The very first ayat of the 10th juz of Quran, which is used to prove the concept of khums. Now the application of khums, who collects it and who gives it and all that stuff, there could be debate about that. In the absence of imam, in the ghaibat of imam, who has the right, who doesn't have the right, that is a different situation. But can you altogether deny that khums is no longer obligatory? Maybe because, Salatul Eid is no longer obligatory, right? It's not wajib in the absence of imam. Therefore, other wajibat are also not wajib anymore in the absence of imam. All of these concepts, this is where oppression against the thought and the culture of the society is the worst form of oppression. And that is something which we are dealing with at the moment. Disbelievers, without any hesitation or reflection, would deny the truth the moment they heard it. Second message that we derive from this ayat is, in your approach to preaching, you should awaken the conscious through questioning. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in this ayat begins by saying, فَمَنْ أَظْلَمُ مِمَّنْ كَذَبَ. That who is a great wrongdoer? And then ends with what? أَلَيْسَ فِي جَهَنَّمَ مَثْوًى لِلْكَافِرِينَ. Isn't this final abode for the kuffar? So right away you find that these two is the method of Anbiya as well, that they would awaken the conscience of the people by constantly asking them and provoking them. Ayat number 33 says, وَالَّذِي جَاءَ بِالصِّدْقِ وَصَدَّقَ بِهِ أُولَٰئِكَ هُمُ الْمُتَّقُونَ لَهُمْ مَا يَشَاءُونَ عِندَ رَبِّهِمْ ذَلِكَ جَزَاءُ الْمُحْسِنِينَ. But he who brought the truth and those who confirmed it as true, such are the ones who shall be guarded against the chastisement. They shall have from their Rabb all that they wish for. That is the reward of those who do good. So whoever speaks truthfully and agrees with the truth that is brought in front of them, affirms it and confirms it and agrees with it, they are indeed the righteous. And whatever they desire, of course, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will make it available for them. So truth and honesty is being mentioned over here. Again, Allah uses two words, sidq wa saddaqa, right? Over there used kadhiba wa kadhaba. Here use the word sidq and saddaqa. That will become more of a linguistic discussion, and I don't want to make it more boring than tafsir itself, where someone hasn't studied the Arabic grammar, sarf and nahaw, it might not appeal to them that much. So I'll just leave it to the fact that how there's harmony. Allah used the word kadhiba wa kazzaba in the previous ayat. He used the word sidq and saddaqa in this ayat. So both are in this correlation. Truth and honesty have dimensions. So you need to have truth in your speech, as this ayat says, ja'a bis-sidqi, meaning the word should be righteous. Truth in your promise, wa innahu kana sadiqul wa'd, that person who fulfills the promises, does not break the promises. Truthfulness in your commitments and covenant, sadaqu ma ahadullah alayhi, those who righteous when it comes to the ahad with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and truthfulness in your actions, ulaika alladhina sadaqu, as this ayat towards the end says, ulaika humul muttaqun. So 4 types of truth and honesty that is being mentioned. 1 in your speech, number 2 in your promise, number 3 in your commitment, number 4 in your action. And someone who maintains all of these 4 necessary truthfulness in all stages is called Siddiq. Don't go ahead and take the title of Siddiq if you're not, righteous when it comes to your actions, when you're not righteous when it comes to your speech, when you're not righteous when it comes to your ahad, when you're not righteous when it comes to fulfilling your promises with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Towards the end of this ayat it says, Ulaika humul muttaqun. They are the ones who are muttaqeen, shall be guarded against the chastisement. As to who will receive punishment in the trial before Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala on the day of judgment, you should note that it will be those wicked people who invented this false creed in their own name to go ahead in their own following, and others who associated partners with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, जिन्होंने अल्लाह के साथ शरीक ठहराया किसी को, who had a share in His being, in His authority, in His powers, in His rights. And worse than that, when the truth was presented before them, they not only paid no heed to it, but on the contrary, treated one another, the one who presented it, as an impostor, yani Rasulullah. So Rasulullah, not only they denied him, but they considered him to be an impostor, and they started associating things like, association with Allah in His power, in His being, in His authority. We got to be careful as Shias as well. Sometimes we also, start flowing in the same direction when we speak about the powers of Ahlul Bayt alayhi salatu wasalam. No doubt, they are the muqarrab of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They are the closest to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And the one who is closest to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has the ability to do intercession and to give us on the basis that Allah listens to what they ask for. That's why we do tawassul to Ahlul Bayt. We just did dua tawassul. Why are we doing tawassul to Ahlul Bayt? Because through this tawassul, you will be able to knock on the door of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala where it will be heard and it will be responded. Otherwise, you might keep on knocking on the door and nobody responds to you without this tawassul. But when you do this tawassul, definitely there's a response that comes in your direction. So with that said, sometimes you and I also need to be careful in our aqidah, in our aqaid, because there's some false aqaid that are now being associated with the madhab of tashayyu as well, giving unnecessary powers to Ahlul Bayt, that they give life and they give death and they give risk and they take away risk and they do all those things. While Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala associates Masumin are declining all of these attributes. Yeah, through us, Allah gives. Yes, that's true. Because of us, this universe is intact. If it wasn't for us, the universe would cease to exist. All of those things are true, but don't take away that which is the power of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that which is the authority of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. If He is the creator, don't associate other creators along with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. There are some disturbing ahadith in this regard, which people, unfortunately, like me, go up on the mimbar to go ahead and get some more wah to go ahead and recite this. There's a hadith that you normally hear that Allah denied giving a child to a certain individual. He goes and knocks on the door of Abul Fadl Abbas, and here the intercession begins. Abul Fadl Abbas then asks Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to give this man what he had asked for. Allah says, "Oh Abul Fadl." This is a conversation going on as if, I don't want to make it dramatic. That, "Oh Abul Fadl, we have already written he will not be getting any children. This is a decree from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala." Or so there was a discussion between him and Allah through an angel. Angel comes here, Hazrat Abul Fazl Abbas says, "No, ask Allah to go ahead and bestow the children because this guy has come on my door asking for it." The angel goes back. Allah says, No, we've already written and this has been decreed upon. La tabdila li sunnatillah. Allah does not change things. He's already written it. It's already in law and mahfuz, law taqdeer, and nothing will change from that aspect. He comes back and tells Hazrat Abul Fazl Abbas. This time, Hazrat Abbas enrages. Jalal aa gaya Abbas ko. If he does not want to fulfill my demand, then take the title of Babul Hawaij away from me. Angel goes back, says to Allah, Abbas says, if you don't want to fulfill my hajat, then take the Babul Hawaij title away from me. Allah gives in. He says, sure, we'll go ahead and grant this person a child. This person was granted a child. Now this sort of ahadith might sound very, intriguing and might get a few wahwa in Nare Hedri and all that stuff in it. But here you're challenging the command of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Those who are the greatest of the ibad of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, who would dare say a word to challenge the decree of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you're associating something with them. This happened. There were ahadith that are called Israeliyat that became part of our madhab, unfortunately. We're not saying, that's why we don't claim all of our books of ahadith are true and 100% truthful. No. I've said it many times here. The 4 books of ahadith that we have, people know the Sahih Sitta, right? Of the Sunni, and the Muslim, and the Bukhari, and the Majah, and the Tirmizi, and others. But when it comes to the 4 of ours, very few are able to name the 4. They only know Al-Kafi. Some might know Man La Yahdurul Faqih. Some might know Tahdhibul Ahkam. Some might know Istibsar. These are the 4. In Al-Kafi, there are 16,000 ahadith. 9,000 of them, according to our scholars, are questionable. They're not authentic. You do the math. More than half the book is not containing Sahih ahadith, right? And that's where through, people like Ayatollah Khui and those who are masters in Ilm Rajal and Ilm Diraya, they go ahead and study the transmitters. They say, well, this hadith does not fit the criteria. This hadith is not reaching Imam Masoom properly. We do not take this hadith as correct. This hadith had this problem, and all that stuff. So out of 16,000, 9,000 are questionable. Right away you'll question, why did then Sahib al-Kafi put together these 16,000 ahadith? Was he not an alim enough to go ahead and put these ahadith while we are now declaring that majority of it is not authentic? Number one, he never claimed that everything in his book is authentic. He was doing merely what is called Jami'ul Akhbar, that he is collecting all the akhbar, right? Jam'ul Khabar, that's what he's doing. And then people later on will come and they will go ahead and look at the transmitters and they'll take what is right and they'll reject what is not right. He didn't want anything to be lost. That's why he put together this book. And I've mentioned this before as well. No problem in repeating it. Allama Zishan al-Jawadi, Allahu maqamuhu, he wrote this in his book when he talks about Ilm al-Rajal. He said, the reason why our scholars like Biharul Anwar, Allama Majlisi, 110 volumes, 100,000 plus ahadith in it, why did he collect all of these ahadith which are questionable? So Allama gave an example, and those who lived in India and Pakistan, they can relate better to it. When you go and buy something from the grocery store, like dal or chawal, let's say back in the day you used to buy dal and chawal, 1 kilo, 2 kilo, right? Not like here you bring 10 pounds and 20 pounds bag. You just buy just enough that you need for a day or two. Imagine someone packed 1 kilogram of dal, mash ki dal, in a plastic bag for you. And you were walking, weren't careful, and the bag ripped. Sari dal gir gayi. Now what you do? It's laying on the ground. You're still not home yet. What are you going to do? You're going to start picking each and every piece of dal? Or just going to grab everything and then go home and clean it up? You're just going to grab everything because you don't want to do this on the road. You'll grab, there might be some kachra and there might be some dust and there might be some sand that'll come with it. You don't mind it at that moment. You just want to grab everything, take it home, and then you'll clean it up. You'll separate that which is dirt with that which is dal, so you can cook it. He said that's what our scholars did. They didn't want any hadith to get lost, so they put everything together, collected it, and then they say you later on, ulama, scholars will come, they will be able to discern between that which is sahih and that which is ghayr sahih. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. So we got to be careful with these sort of, speeches and ahadith that are now explained, which are challenging the aqaid of madhab-e-tashayyu as well. I have a couple of minutes in my possession. I'll quickly finish. As far as the person who came with the truth and those who affirm faith in him are concerned, there can be obviously no punishment for them in the court of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Last portion said, Lahum ma yasha'una inda rabbihim. One should note that the words used here are inda rabbihim and not indal jannah or fil jannah. That they can have whatever they want near their Rabb. Wouldn't it make sense for it to say they can have whatever they want in Jannat? Right? They can have whatever they want in this masjid. They can have whatever they want outside of this masjid. Allah said they can have whatever they want in the Rabbihim, near their Rabb. He didn't say they can have whatever they want inside the Jannat. What's the difference between the two? Obviously, in paradise, man reaches in the presence of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala just right after the death. You end, the death takes place, you go into this barzakhi world. Barzakh is sort of goes by with you when people will wake up from barzakh. Those who died 10,000 years ago as opposed to those who died yesterday, they will all wake up seeming as if they just passed away yesterday and they took a long nap and they're now waking up to be in the presence of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in Qiyamah. Therefore, the intention of this verse seems to be not only after entering Jannat, but right from the time of death till his entry onto the paradise, Allah will treat the righteous believers. So when you see Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, not seeing in a sense that you see him physically, but when you are in the company of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, from that moment you can have whatever you want until you enter Jannah. So you don't have to wait until you get to Jannah. All these things will be in your possession. The believer will certainly desire to be saved from the torment of barzakh, from the severity of the day of resurrection, as well as the judgment and the humiliation on the plane of gathering, mahshar ka jo maidan hoga, and from the punishment of his errors and shortcomings, and Allah Almighty will fulfill all his desires. I hear the sound of adhan. There were a couple of messages in this ayat that I did not get to. Inshallah, we'll discuss them next week with the permission that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives us the ability to ponder on these ayat of Quran. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to hasten the reappearance of our weighted Imam, make us amongst the helpers and the soldiers of Imam wa akhiru da'wana. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen.
لا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العلي أعوذ بالله من الشيطان اللعين الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم إن الله وملائكته يصلون على النبي يا أيها الذين آمنوا صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما